Hey friends, I am live. Okay, sorry, it took some moment for the thing to set up. I wanted to do more video than this, but it's been really hot lately, like really, really hot. And my room here with the computer is not the best when it's super hot, so sorry. So part 3 is today. I have a slight headache, but I wanted to do it anyway, so sorry for that. Also, I have some stuff to talk about, but I'll go in the book and maybe in between the chapter I'll talk about stuff. So we were at part 5 of the chapter, The Window. And I don't remember exactly what happens more than. Okay. All right. And even if it isn't fine tomorrow, said Mrs. Ramsay, raising her eyes to glance at William Banks and Lily Briscoe as they passed, it would be another day. And now, she said, thinking that Lily's charm was her Chinese eyes, aslant in her white, puckered little face, but it would take a clever man to see it. And now, stand up and let me measure your leg. For they might go to the lighthouse after all, and she must see if the stocking didn't need to be an inch or two longer in the leg. Smiling, for an admirable idea had flashed upon her this very second, William and Lily should marry. She took the heather mixture stocking, with its crisscross of steel needles at the mouth of it, and measured it against James' leg. "My dear, stand still," she said. For in his jealousy, not liking to serve as measuring block for the lighthouse keeper's little boy, James fidgeted purposely, and if he did that, how could she see? Was it too long? Was it too short? She asked. She looked up. What demon possessed him? Her youngest, her cherished, and saw the room, saw the chairs, thought them fearfully shabby. Their entrails, as Andrew said the other day, were all over the floor. But then what was the point, she asked herself, of buying good chairs to let them spoil up here all through the winter when the house, with only one old woman to see it, positively dripped with wet? Hurry. Never mind, the rent was precisely 2 pence halfpenny. The children loved it. It did her husband good to be 3,000 or, if she must be accurate, 300 miles from his library and his lectures and his disciples, and there was room for visitor, mats, camp, beds, crazy ghost of chairs, and table whose London life of service was done. They did well enough here, and a photograph or two and books, she thought, grew of themselves. She never had time to read them, alas. Even the books that had been given her and inscribed by the hand of the poet himself, for her whose wishes must be obeyed, the happier Helen of her days, disgraceful to say, she had never read them. You need to take time to read books. That's what I'm doing here. It's important. And cruel on the mind and baits on the savage custom of Polynesia. My dear, stand still, she said. Neither of those could once enter the lighthouse. At a certain moment, she supposed the house would become so shabby that something must be done. If they could be taught to wipe their feet and not bring the beach in with them, that would be something. Crabs, she had to holler, if Andrew really wished to dissect them. Or if Jasper believed that one could make soup from seaweed, one could not prevent it. Or Rose's objects, shell, reeds, stones, for they were gifted, her children, but all in quite different ways. And the result of it was, she sighed, thinking, I don't know how to pronounce that. When you sigh, she sighed, taking the whole room from floor to ceiling as she held a stocking against James' leg. That things got shabbier and got shabbier summer after summer. The match was fading, the wallpaper was flapping. You couldn't tell anymore that those were roses on it. Still, if every door in a house is left perpetually open and no lockmaster in the whole of Scotland can man a bolt, think, things must spoil. What was the use of flinging a green cashmere shawl over the edge of a picture frame? In 2 weeks, it would be the color of pea soup. But it was the doors that annoyed her. Every door was left open. She listened. The drawing room door was open. The hall door was open. It sounded as if the bedroom doors were open, and certainly the window on the landing was open, for that she had opened herself. That windows should be open and doors shut, simple as it was, could none of them remember it? And she would go into the maid's bedroom at nights and find them sealed like oven, except for Mary's, the Swiss girl who would rather go without a bath than without fresh air. But then at home she had said, "The mountains are so beautiful." She had said that last night, looking out of the window with tears in her eyes. The mountains are so beautiful. Her father was dying there, Mrs. Ramsay knew. He was leaving them fatherless, scolding and demonstrating how to make a bed, how to open a window with hands that shut and spread like a French woman's. All had folded itself quietly about her when the girl spoke, as, after a flight through the sunshine, the wings of a bird fold themselves quietly, and the blue of its plumage changes from bright steel to soft purple. She had stood there silent, for there was nothing to be said. He had cancer of the throat. At the recollection, oh, she had stood there. Oh, the girl had said, "At home the mountains are so beautiful." And there was no hope whatever. She had a spasm of irritation as, speaking sharply, said to James, "Stand still, don't be tiresome." So that he knew instantly that her severity was real, and straightened his leg, and she measured it. The stocking was too short by half an inch at least, making allowance for the fact that Sorley's little boys would be less well grown than James. "It's too short," she said. "Ever so much too short. Never did anybody look so sad, bitter and black, halfway down in the darkness, in the shaft which ran from the sunlight to the depth. Perhaps a tear formed, a tear fell, the water swayed this way and that, received it, and were at rest. Never did anybody look so sad." Cup of coffee. It's decaf because it's 2 in the morning. I'm not gonna drink coffee at this hour, but I need my decaf to make my body believe that I'm drinking coffee. But was it nothing but looks? People said. What was there behind it? Her beauty, her splendor. Had he blown his brains out? They asked. Had he died the week before they were married? Some other earlier lover of whom rumor reached one? There was nothing but an incomparable beauty which she left behind and could do nothing to disturb. For hazily thought she might have said at some moment of intimacy, when stories of great passion, of love foiled, of ambition thwarted, came her way, how she too had known or felt or been through it herself. She never spoke. She was silent always. She knew then. She knew without having learned. Her simplicity fathomed was what clever people falsified. Her singleness of mind made her drop plumb like a stone, allied exact as a bird, gave her naturally this swoop and fall of the spirit upon truth which delighted, eased, sustained, falsely perhaps. "Nature has but little clay," said Mr. Banks once, hearing her voice on the telephone, and much moved by it too, though she was only telling him a fact about a train, like that of which she molded you. He saw her at the end of the line, Greek, blue-eyed, straight nose. Oh, incongruous it seemed. It seemed to be telephoning a woman like that, that Grace's assembling seemed to have joined, and in the meadows of asphodel to compose that face. Yes, he would catch the 10:30 at Euston. But she's no more aware of her beauty than a child, said Mr. Banks, replacing the receiver and crossing the room to see what progress the workmen were making with an hotel which they were building at the back of his house. And he thought of Mrs. Ramsay as he looked at that stair among the unfinished wall, for always he thought there was something incongruous to be worked into the harmony of her face. She clapped at deerstalker's hat on her head. She ran across the lawn in goloshes to snatch a child from mischief. So that if it was her beauty merely that one thought of, one must remember the quivering thing, the living thing. They were carrying bricks up a little plank as he watched them and work it into the picture. Or if one thought of her simply as a woman, one must handle her with some freak of idiosyncrasy, or suppose some latent desire to doff her what royalty of form as if her beauty bore her and all that men say of beauty, and she wanted only to be like other people, insignificant. He did not know he must go to his work. Knitting her reddish-brown hairy stocking with her head outlined absurdly by the gilt frame, the gilt frame. I'm not sure about that, sorry. It's not written like gilt. The green shawl which he had tossed over the edge of the frame, and the authenticated masterpiece by Michelangelo. Mrs. Ramsay smoothed out what had been harsh in her manner a moment before, raised his head, and kissed her little boy on the forehead. Let's find another picture to cut out, she said. Okay. So we're now at part 6, which I'm going to read. Okay, yeah, I should read part 6, and that's going to be it after. So, first off, okay, sorry for the coffee noise. I said I wanted to talk, but I need to get into this because I have a headache and I need to do that video somewhat quick. But whatever, I just want to talk with you. The camera. I watched Bull Burnham Inside today, and well, first off, I didn't like it, which seems to be a surprise to a lot of people because it seems that most people are positive about it, at least most of my circle is, which like it kind of happened a lot that I disagree with my friends and whatever. It's neither here nor there. Though I get annoyed because I don't enjoy being a contrarian, even though I'm often a contrarian. Like most people think contrarian do that just to sound cool or because they're hipster. And while I'm definitely a hipster, and like Virginia Woolf is definitely hipster reading, I'm not a contrarian just for the sake of being a contrarian. I just didn't like it, and I explained why on my letterbox, but it's not important. It did throw me for a loop, though, because I feel a lot of what Bo Burnham Inside does is similar to what I'm doing as an artist, and I'm not talking about this, though a lot of it is inspired by streamer culture, and like ironic streaming and all that kind of stuff, but like I'm talking about my video games. So I made a game called A Game About, and I'm working on another one called Please Hold Me, and like a lot of the irony Bo Burnham used in his special is the kind of irony people would see me using too, but I disagree with how he uses it. That makes sense. And maybe also look back to the streaming here. Like sometimes I'm looking at the camera like now and doing like little silly joke and whatever, and I'm reading something about a French woman in the book, and I'm like looking at the camera because that was weird. Like we agree with each other that maybe the bit about the French woman was a little weird. And like, you could take this as an ironic experiment or whatever, but I know I repeat this it's only the third video, but I repeat this every time, but I want this to be like an honest appreciation of to the Lighthouse, even though I'm not a good reader of it. Like, if you want the best to the Lighthouse experience, you're probably better with a real audiobook or just like reading a book yourself. Like right now, you want the experience of having to listen to a book in class while somebody else not too great at reading reads it. But still, like, I'm honestly enjoying the book, and I'm honestly enjoying reading it because having to read it out loud forced me to pace myself when I read it and not like skip over parts. And because it's a very weird and blurry book, like it's not like, it's a lot of internal thoughts and a lot of internal monologue and all that shit. So it kind of like the narrative can be hard to discern sometimes, and having to read it while pacing myself helps getting everything I can get from the book. Like, obviously, the best way is just to reread it multiple times, and that's just my second reading. But obviously, unless I'm dying tomorrow, like, I'm gonna read to Lighthouse another few times during my lifetime, I hope, because it deserves it. Anyway, that was my small thought about Bo Burnham Inside. Do watch it or don't watch it if you're not interested. It wasn't my thing. Not saying it's awful. It wasn't my thing. So, yeah. I also have water, so I can read probably, but I don't know. Sometimes my mouth doesn't do exactly what I want it to do. Okay, so we're at part 6. I'm going to read part 6. But what had happened? Someone had blundered. Starting from her musing, she gave meaning to words which she had held meaningless in her mind for a long stretch of time. Someone had blundered, fixing her short-sighted eyes upon her husband was no bearing down upon her. She gazed steadily until his closeness revealed to her the jingle made it itself in her head. That something had happened. Someone had blundered. But she could not for the life of her think what. Oops. Sorry. He shivered, he quivered. All his vanity, all his satisfaction in his own splendor, riding fell as a thunderbolt, fierce as a hawk, at the head of his men through the valley of death. Sorry, put the song into my head. Had been shattered, destroyed. Storm that by shot and shell, boldly we rode and well, flashed through the valley of death, volleyed and thundered straight into Lily Briscoe and William Banks. He quivered, he shivered. Like, it's a very nice few sentences here, but it fucked up my brain because, like, my brain is just a mess of bad pop culture reference, and they're getting, like, every thought that gets there get crisscrossed with a lot of other bad pop culture reference, and I feel that's what the internet did to us. No, whatever. That's why, that's why you need to read and reread, and if you really want to enjoy the stuff properly. Okay. Not for the world would she have spoken to him, realizing from the familiar signs his eyes averted, and some curious gathering together of his person, as if he wrapped himself about and needed privacy in which to regain his equilibrium, that he was outraged and anguished. She stroked James' head. She transferred to him what she felt for her husband, and as she watched him chalk yellow the white dress shirt of a gentleman in the Army and Navy store catalog, thought what a delight it would be to her should he turn out a great artist, and why should he not? He had a splendid forehead. Then, looking up as her husband passed her once more, she was relieved to find that the ring was veiled. Domesticity triumphed. Custom crooned its soothing rhythm, so that when stopping deliberately, as his turn came round again at the window, he bent quizzically and whimsically to tickle James' bare calf with a sprig of something. She twitted him for having dispatched that poor young man, Charles Tansley. Tansley had had to go in and write his dissertation, he said. James will have to write his dissertation one of these days, he added, ironically flicking his sprig. Hating his father, James brushed away the tickling spray, with which, in a manner peculiar to him, compound of severity and humor, he teased his youngest son's bare leg. She was trying to get these tiresome stockings finished to send to Sorley's little boys tomorrow, said Mrs. Ramsay. There wasn't the slightest possible chance that they could go to the Lighthouse tomorrow, Mr. Ramsay snapped out irascibly. How did you know? She asked, the wind of tension. The extraordinary irrationality of her remark, the folly of woman's mind, enraged him. He had ridden through the valley of death, been shattered and shivered, and now she slew in the face of facts, made his children hope what was utterly out of the question, in effect told lies. He stamped his foot on the stone. Damn you, he said. On the stone step. I misstepped there. Damn you, he said. But what he had, she said, simply that it might be fine tomorrow, so it might. Not with the barometer falling and the wind due west. To pursue truth with such astonishing lack of consideration for others' people feeling, to rend the thin veils of civilization so wantonly, so brutally, was to her so horrible an outrage of human decency that, without replying, dazed and blinded, she bent her head as if to let the pelt of jagged hail, the drench of dirty water, bespatter at her unrebuked. There was nothing to be said. He stood by her in silence. Very humbly, at length, he said that he would step over and ask the Coast Guard if she liked. There was nobody whom she reverenced as she reverenced him. She was quite ready to take his word for it, she said. Only then they need not cut sandwiches. That was all. They came to her, naturally, since she was a woman, all day long with this and that, one wanting this, another that. The children were growing up. Shepton felt she was nothing but a sponge sopped full of human emotion. Then he said, damn you, he said it must rain. He said it won't rain. And instantly a heaven of security opened before her. There was nobody she reverenced more. She was not good enough to tie a shoestring, she felt. Yeah. Don't put that much energy into a man, please. Especially like he sounds like an asshole. Already ashamed of that petulance, of that gesticulation of the ants when charging at the head of his troops, Mr. Ramsay rather sheepishly prodded his son's bare legs once more, and then, as if he had her leave for it, in a movement which hardly reminded his wife of the great sea lion at the zoo tumbling backwards after swallowing his fish and walloping off so that the water in the tank washes from side to side. He dived into the evening air, which already thinner was taking the substance from leaves and hedges, but as if in return, restoring to rose and pinks a lustre which they had not had by day. I don't know you say lust in English. It's a French word, but I only know the French pronunciation. I'm sorry. Someone had blundered, he said again, striding up and down the terrace. But how extraordinarily his note had changed. It was like the cuckoo. In June, he gets out of tune, as if he were trying over, tentatively seeking some phrase for a new mood, and having only this at hand, used it, crack it. Tell you was, but it sounded ridiculous. Someone had blunder, said like that, almost as a question, without any conviction, maliciously. Mrs. Ramsay could not help smiling, and soon, sure enough, walking up and down, he hummed it, dropped it, fell silent. He was safe. He was restored to his privacy. He stopped to light his pipe, looked once at his wife and son in the window, and as one raised one's eyes from a page in an express train and sees a farm, a tree, a cluster of cottage, as an illustration, a confirmation of something on the printed page to which one returns fortified and satisfied. So without his distinguishing either his son or his wife, the sight of them fortified him and satisfied him, and consecrated his effort to arrive at a perfectly clear understanding of the problem which now engaged the energies of his splendid mind. Okay. It was a splendid mind, for if thoughts is like the keyboard of a piano divided into so many notes, or like the alphabet is arranged in 26 letters, all in order, then a splendid mind had no sort of difficulty in running over those letters one by one, firmly and accurately, until that reached, say, the letter Q. He reached Q. Very few people in the whole England ever reached Q. Here, stopping for one moment by the stone urn which held the geranium, he saw, but no far away, like children picking up shells, divinely innocent and occupied with little trifle at their feet, and somehow entirely defenseless against the doom which he perceived his wife and son together in the window. They needed his protection, he gave it them. But after Q, what come next? After Q, there are a number of letters, the last of which is scarcely visible to mortal eyes, but glimmer red in the distance. Z is only reached once by one man in a generation. You say, yeah, it's Z in English? I'm not sure. So if he could reach R, it would be something. At least was Q. He dug his heel in at Q. Q he was sure of. Q he could demonstrate. If Q, then is Q. R. Here he knocked his pipe out with 2 or 3 resonant taps on the ram's horn, which made the handle of the horn, and proceeded. Then R. He braced himself. He clenched himself. Qualities that would have saved a ship's company exposed on a brawling sea with 6 biscuits and a flask of water, endurance and justice, foresight, devotion, skill came to his help. R is then what is R? A shudder like the leathern eyelid of a lizard flickered over the intensity of his gaze and obscured the letter R. In that flash of darkness, he heard people saying he was a failure, that R was beyond him. He would never reach R. On to R once more R. Qualities that in a desolate expedition across the icy solitude of the polar region would have made him the leader, the guide, the counselor, whose temper, neither sanguine nor despondent, surveys with equanimity what is to be and faces it, came to his help again. R. The letter R. The lizard's eye flickered once more. I love that. Like she reused the metaphor she used previously to express the shock. I love that. The veins on his forehead bulged. The geranium in the urn became startlingly visible and displayed among its sleeve. He could see without wishing it that obvious distinction between the 2 classes of men. On the one hand, the steady goers of Superman's strength who, plodding and persevering, repeat the whole alphabet in order, 26 letters in all, from start to finish. On the other, the gifted, inspired, who miraculously lump all the letters together in one flash, the way of genius. He had not genius. He laid no claim to that, but he had, or might have had, the power to repeat every letter of the alphabet from A to Z accurately. In meanwhile, he stuck at Q and then onto R. Feelings that would not have disgraced a leader who know that the snow had begun to fall at the mountain top is covered in mist, knows that he must lay himself down and die before morning comes. Stole upon him, paling the color of his eyes, giving him, even in the 2 minutes of his turn on the terrace, the bleached look of withering old age. Yet he would not die lying down. He would find some crag of rock, and there, his eyes fixed on the storm, trying to the end to pierce the darkness, he would die standing. He would never reach R. He stood stuck still by the urn, with the geranium flowing over it. How many men in 1,000,000,000, he asked himself, reach Z after all? Surely the leader of a forlorn hope may ask himself that and answer without treachery to the expedition behind him. One perhaps. Sorry. One in a generation. Is he to be blamed then if he's not that one, provided that he has toiled honestly, given to the best of his power, till he has no more left to give, and his frame lasts how long? It is permissible even for a dying hero to think before he dies all men will speak of him hereafter. His fame lasts perhaps 2,000 years, and what are 2,000 years? Asked Mr. Ramsay, ironically starting at the edge. What indeed, if you look from a mountain top down the long ways of the ages? The very stone one kick with one's boot will outlast Shakespeare. His own little light would shine not very brightly for a year or two, and would then be merged in some bigger light, and that in bigger still. He looked into the darkness, into intricacy of the twigs. Who then could blame the leader of that forlorn party, which after all has climbed high enough to see the ways of the year and the perishing of stars, if before death stiffen his limbs beyond the power of movement, he does, a little consciously raise his numbed fingers to his brow, and square his shoulders so that when the search party comes, they will find him dead at his post, the fine figure of a soldier. Mr. Ramsay squared his shoulder and stood very bright by the fern. Who shall blame him if so standing for a moment he dwells upon fame, upon search parties, upon cairns raised by grateful follower over his bones? Finally, who shall blame the leader of the doomed expedition, if having adventured to the uttermost and used his strength only to the last stones and fall and asleep, not much caring if he wakes or not, he now perceives by some pricking in his toes that he lives, and does not on the whole object to live, but requires sympathy and whiskey and someone to tell the story of his suffering to at once. Who shall blame him? Who will not secretly rejoice when the hero puts his armor off and halts by the window and gazes at his wife and son, who very distant at first gradually come closer and closer, till lips and book and head are clearly before him, though still lovely and unfamiliar from the intensity of his isolation and the waste of ages and the perishing of the stars, and finally pulling his pipe in his pocket and bending his magnificent head before her. Who will blame him if he does homage the beauty of the world? That was chapter 7, part 7. So, realize one thing that makes this novel also hard to read live this way is how it changes seamlessly between the characters as the narrator. Well, not as the narrator, because the narrator is not one of the characters, but like there's no indication when you're reading the thoughts of one or the other, but like it can switch in between with Mrs. Ramsay and the dude there, but it's always switching between character, one thinking about the anyway. So the husband seems to be kind of narcissistic, let's say. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't have much to say any more than that. So I'm supposed to have a small surgery this week, so I might feel little weird. It's not a big thing. It's not a big thing. I've had health problem for like 4 years now. The surgery is not a big thing, but the fact that it like kind of put a new step in my health process, let's say, that's been going on for the last 4 years. That is more like a big thing. I'm not stressed about the surgery itself because it's not a big thing, and I had bigger surgeries before. One that went really bad, like one that nearly killed me. That's not a fun story. But maybe if someone asks me, I'll say it on YouTube. Uh, but so the surgery itself doesn't make me afraid. It's more like the feeling that maybe it'll change nothing and I'm not going to be better. My health won't be better. They actually don't know. And that's why they start with a small surgery to then go for the complete deal later if it seems to work. It's kind of hard to explain. But like knowing that I'm a next step in that 4-year process is kind of weird. I had kind of not given up hope about it. It's just that I found like a psychological way to deal with it and to deal with that maybe my health wouldn't get any better ever. Like through therapy and through other like medication and stuff like that. So I kind of had lost the idea that maybe it could change and then maybe later I won't need medication, or maybe I'll still need a different medication or whatever, but that I won't be in some sort of like chronic pain, let's say. Yeah. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Like it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird feeling, but it's not like a negative feeling. It's supposed to help. So, like, worst case scenario, I'm still in the same spot that I'm right now. Best case scenario, it helps. And I get a better surgery that will fix everything, hopefully. But, like, worst case scenario, I'm still in the same spot. I'm not in such a bad spot right now. Like, I'm reading to the Lighthouse on the internet by myself. Does someone who has an unhappy life could do that? See, that's irony. I'm not having an unhappy life right now, but that's the kind of irony that us millennials should get over with. Like, it doesn't help us, it doesn't help anyone. And like, I hate boomers. Like, I hate not every boomers, obviously, but I hate what boomers do to the economy and our future, and then they act like us and like the Generation Z are like lazy or anything. Well, we're working way more than they ever did for what we have. But we should stop with the constant irony, us millennials. Okay, so that was something. Next up is the music. I wanted to share some music again with you, and this time it's gonna be the new Aldous Harding song "Old Peel," but specifically, I really want to share the video clip with you because I really like that video clip. I really like her video clip in general, but what I like about this one in particular that kind of explain what I also like about her other video clip is okay. So the video clip is nothing. Like, it's just people playing their instrument and doing music, but they're vibing and they're vibing in this very strange way that like give a surreal thing to a video clip. And it's often the case in a video clip, like the I don't remember the others. I think it's Zoo Eyes also is kind of like that, and I don't remember the name of the other song, but look them up. She's great. She's a great artist, and it's always in between being very funny but also very sad and just very weird, and doesn't feel try hard. Like it's weird without feeling try hard, which is what I really like. It feels honest while also being a little off, and I think that's like a really cool I think that's a really cool mood that she managed to recreate a lot of time in her video clips. And I really like the ending of this one, because like you can see it as a full joke, like maybe it won't get you, but like the moment at the end, and spoilers for the video clip, and the moment at the end where she's holding Who as the singer in the group later, it just becomes, and they're both looking straight ahead, and like it seems like they're looking at the future together and like determined towards the future in just this weird, this was just a weird video clip of people vibing weirdly together, but then it kind of gets serious and like kind of melancholic for a second or something. Like the emotions are named because there's no real narrative or whatever, but like in those shots, it feels like they're serious for a little second in what was just a big joke before. So that's what I can enjoy, because it like any other artist would do a video clip like this, and it would just feel like a big troll or a big shitpost. Whereas for her, it felt kind of honest, even though it's just weird and kind of dumb and kind of funny. So Aldous Harding, Old Peel, people vibing together. I love this shit. Hope you like it. Like and subscribe, as people should do when they like YouTube stuff. I'm gonna try to say that every end of stream. For my 25 something watcher. I don't know with the surgery if I'm gonna do one soon, but I'll try to do one next week. We'll see. No promise. Bye-bye.